Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week I predicted that number 1 would be Lilo and Stitch, number 2 would be Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning, number 3 would be Final Destination Bloodlines, number 4 would be The Last Rodeo, and number 5 would be Thunderbolts. And fucking Angel Studios. I just had to predict this one. I was on such a good roll. I got 3 out of 5 of my predictions right. I fucked it. Thanks a lot, fucking Last Rodeo. God damn it. If you got your predictions right, obviously here is your shout out right now. If you didn't, I'm sorry, better luck next time. Apparently we're going to be discussing quite the record breaker for Memorial Day weekend. Well, as you all know, when we talk about, the box office, for these kind of holidays, I still try to stick with just the numbers for the 3-day. I don't like to try to overestimate like what the 4th one will do. I try to go by what we always do, which is just the 3-day. There might be some crossover just because it can get confusing, but so yeah, apparently though, this is quite a record break just domestically alone. It seems like, all the movies have grossed about over $300 million, $330 million at the box office. And that's just domestically. Worldwide, it's way more. And that's obviously really, really good. The fact that we've got so many record breakers here, including number 1, which is Lilo and Stitch. Obviously that was going to happen. And, it's not that surprising. The fact that this is the highest ever for the holiday domestically, this opening, and then it will continue to be the highest once we get the 4-day one. That's incredible. Gotta hand it to them. It opened on the 3-day weekend to 145 million, which domestically just a couple 100,000 over the original Lilo and Stitch already in one weekend. Just goes to show you, you had a really great film that came out that maybe wasn't the biggest film they'd ever released, but, it was beloved enough to, gather a fan base in the theaters, and then people watched it at home and, showed other people it, or when they got older, they showed their kids. That's about like 20-ish years since. So yeah, a lot of lives have changed and grown up with Lilo and Stitch. And now, of course, when you have a remake that is trying to evoke the nostalgia of that audience, of course, they come in droves with the bigger audience that they have cultivated over the years. Obviously, that was going to happen. Is it a little depressing to think about, considering that a far superior film has now been remade, and now this remake is just cashing in on people's goodwill on the previous thing? Yeah, it is. But hey, whatever keeps theaters in business, I guess, at this point. You know what I mean? Worldwide, even, that adds to an opening of $341 million. And you might be wondering, oh no, but is this going to be one of those, like, Snow White situations where it's like, the budget is fucking crazy? Actually, no. I think part of that is because this was originally made to go to Disney Plus. So the budget is actually only about $100 million initially, so they've already doubled and tripled that on their way to quadrupling. With an opening like this, I think we're going to see this have quite the fantastic run. And when checking the numbers.com, there's like the little list that like compiled like the live action remakes of like other like animated ones. I had to sort through the Disney ones, add The Lion King, because technically it could count to some people. It is only 29 million below the opening weekend of Beauty and the Beast and 46 million below The Lion King. So unless I'm missing a movie, this is the 3rd highest opening weekend ever for one of these Disney live action remakes. God damn. That's, because we were looking like we were in a bit of a rut, it got like, you had your flops like Dumbo come along, or like Cruella got shuffled in with the, opening up theaters in 2021 kind of thing. Didn't gross as much as it maybe could have at one point. And also Snow White earlier this year, I think, is a bigger example of it, of one of these not doing really well. Little Mermaid was kind of mixed. This one obviously just, kicking doors in to get into people's consciousness of like, we have to see this movie in the theaters. And of course, this is a more reasonable budget for one of these movies. Wow, they've got quite the hit on there, quite a turnaround, for the whole thing. I know that Disney, there was that news article after Snow White bombed where they're like, they're reconsidering their live action plans. The Tangled movie is on pause. I wonder how long it'll take for them to completely work around that. Of course, obviously the difference of budget, this movie was literally made with the intention of it going to Disney Plus. So if they did plan it for theaters originally, it would have been way more. I'm honestly not quite sure how they would have worked around that. Either way, though, maybe they'll reconsider their reconsideration. I don't know. As far as like other like animated films or like animated, segments that have been adapted into live action films. We'll talk about that. Currently, Lilo and Stitch has outgrossed The Sorcerer's Apprentice by 82 million. Of course, that is sort of kind of based on that one short. 79 million over 102 Dalmatians, 68 million Alice Through the Looking Glass, 58 million Snow White already in one weekend, 46 million over Christopher Robin. That kind of counts, sort of kind of. 31 million over Dumbo, and 9 million over 101 Dalmatians. It is sitting behind Kenneth Branagh's Cinderella by 16 million. And then worldwide, like we said, 341 million. It is outgrossed 102 Dalmatians by 275. Mulan, because it had more of a run worldwide as opposed to domestic, outgrossed that one by 272. Christopher Robin by 144. Snow White by 137. Sorcerer's Apprentice by 124. Alice Through the Looking Glass by 65. And once again, 101 Dalmatians, the last one here, outgrossing that one by 37 million, and it needs 12 million until it outgrosses Dumbo. So yeah, quite a bit of the lowest earning ones, getting outgrossed immediately by Lilo and Stitch. I think we all knew that it was probably going to do well. It was probably going to do way better than what Snow White did, but I think just when you lay it all out like this, it is kind of like just still kind of shocking. Like, it is kind of crazy that this one is really doing it. I mean, even if you look critically, it's gotten better reviews than some of these other live action remakes. It seems like a lot of people are kind of rallying behind this one, even if they're not like head over heels in love with it. They're just like, oh, well, it's one of the better ones. It's a fun enough movie. It still has the heart of the OG film. And if you ask me, I haven't done a video for it yet, or maybe I won't. I might just skip it. This movie fucking sucks. And I, once again, hate to do, like, the compare thing, because I don't like doing that, like, holding something to something else, but, I mean, it's kind of impossible when they try to do things beat for beat. They try to mimic iconic moments, but then they also seem to forget the moments that also make the film iconic, and now they've, like, altered it so that it doesn't have those moments, and they try to substitute it with other things that it just don't work as well. This movie, if you ask me, is just like, it just misses the mark in every single way, but it seems like, I don't know, but just because there's a cute animal and, a little kid acting off of it who's adorable, like, that's just enough. That's just enough for some people to just be like, oh, well, it still has to, fuck off. Get the fuck out of here. You're lying. Fuck you! I'm sorry, I've got a lot of stuff going on personally. Sorry, let's move on to number 2, which is Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Now, this one, obviously not as much as Lilo and Stitch. It's contributing to the record, weekend for this Memorial Day, but it's not, numbers-wise, it's not as much as Lilo and Stitch. It opened to 63 million for the 3-day. The estimates are saying the 4th day it could get to 77 million. So, either way, this is the highest opening for the franchise. For the 3-day, it is 2 million over Fallout's 61 million opening. And of course, as Memorial Day keeps going and we get more numbers added in, this could slightly go up a bit. So they're in a pretty good spot as far as that goes. Domestically, they need about 70 million to outpace Mission Impossible 3. Worldwide, they're opening up to $190 million, and they need 209 million until they outgross Mission Impossible 3. I mentioned it last weekend. The biggest wrinkle here is that the budget listed is $300 to $400 million, and that is fucking crazy. And I kind of knew, like, just seeing how Dead Reckoning didn't have, like, the same amount of money, technically. it kind of, barely squeaked by into the $500 million as far as, like, its final numbers, that one, but the budget being as high as it was kind of like, is this even profitable? It got squashed by Barbenheimer, and this one kind of releasing at the same time as Lilo and Stitch. I don't know if, if it opened up on a weekend where there was no other releases and it was kind of a dry season, I don't know if this would have gotten a higher opening weekend, but at the very least, opening against Lilo and Stitch probably doesn't help a whole lot. I can only hope that, there's not as much crossover as far as, like, the audiences. Like, you could take small kids to see Mission Impossible just because it is PG-13. It's not like, gasp, an R-rated, bringing a kid into an R-rated film, but I don't think there's much crossover there, though, so I don't think it's affecting the audience turnout for that film specifically. I think I've really let go of the idea of it kind of breaking even, theatrically, but, not all movies do, sometimes it does take the extra DVD sales, streaming things, whatever, for it to finally break even. I think, though, for a final installment, I'm so used to, like, certain franchises going out on a high when you get to or what's conceived as the last one, or, like, what's the big event that's closing a certain chapter. And then we have this, which is, I mean, yeah, like I just said, it is the highest, domestic opening for the franchise right here, but it is kind of like, well, it's only the highest by, like, a couple million. It's kind of on track with where it's been, and in fact, I'm sure some people will say, like, if you adjust the other opening weekends for inflation, the numbers actually go up, so it probably isn't even the same amount of people. Either way, though, I've kind of given up on, thinking it's going to break even or at least double one of these two numbers, 300 or 400 million. At the very least, I just want it to last a while. I just want to see how far they get. I don't want to talk about profitability. I don't care. It's Jover. Number 3 is Final Destination Bloodlines, having a bit of a dip here, just percentage-wise, but I mean, it already killed it last weekend, so at this point, it's just smooth sailing. It made 19 million, adding to a domestic total of 89 million, so for the other franchise installments, it has outgrossed the original film by 36 million, the third film by 35, and the fourth one, The Final Destination, by 23 million. Domestically, it is the highest grossing installment. Worldwide, it is now sitting at 182 million. That is 18 million shy of quadrupling their initial production budget of 50 million. So it has outgrossed the original film by 70 million and the third film by the same number. And it's 27 million over 5. It is just 5 million shy of The Final Destination. And then it's the highest grossing one here. We might as well just call it that at this point, What an achievement, where a movie where the percentage drop for the weekend doesn't even really matter, and it's not even worth mentioning just because they're already in such a great spot. If this doesn't encourage them to work with the same team to try to make more and see what else they could get out of this, I don't know, man. I think they've got a clear go-ahead here, and I would look forward to it. Once again, if it's by the same team or if they have some new artists they want to swap in, I'd be interested. Absolutely, because they did such a good job with this one. Number 4 is Thunderbolts, making 9.1 million, adding to a domestic total of 171 million. It has outgrossed Eternals by 7 million. It is sitting behind Captain America First Avenger by just 5 million now. Easy money to make at this point for them. Worldwide, it is sitting at 353 million, so not only is that 17 million away from the First Avenger, but it's about 7 million shy from the doubling point of its 180 initial production budget. It is kind of a bummer that, because of the competition and it's releasing like in the summer, it's not like when Brave New World came out in February, there was still like some wiggle room for it to do well because it's just still a bit of an earlier season. It is kind of a bummer that it seems like, maybe I'm wrong, it seems like it's kind of shaping up to end worldwide and domestically where Brave New World kind of ended off. I think I was kind of hoping that because of word of mouth, and, open small, but then it could last and people keep talking about it and encouraging others to go check it out, and it maybe just potentially outgrows it, and it still could, but it just looks like it's not going to have a bigger boost than it did. But like we've always discussed, it seemed like this production was pretty efficient, and it seems like the positivity surrounding this is encouragement enough for Marvel Studios and a win, so they're probably fine. And like I said, they're about to get to their doubling point, and they're inching closer to 400 mil. Maybe they are fine. I feel like this one is more fine where they're at than Brave New World or Quantumania. Number 5 is Sinners, making 8.7, adding to a domestic total of 256. For Ryan Coogler, it is 197 million away from Wakanda Forever. And then for horror films in general, it is still behind Jaws, but now it's behind it by 17 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at $336 million. So that places it 523 million away from Wakanda Forever for Ryan Coogler. But it did, for the horror list, outgross the original Quiet Place by 2 million. It needs 14 million now until it outgrosses Hannibal. So I know I kind of had a bit of a kind of a crash out last week when I was like, oh no, did I forget to include the Sixth Sense? And I did, so it is number 9 right now as far as that list goes once you add in the Sixth Sense, according to the numbers.com, obviously. So they're still working their way up. They can make that 14 million. They can inch closer to potentially top 5, maybe. Or can they? I forgot what other numbers they have to outgross. They can get closer is all I'm saying. Number 6 is The Last Rodeo, the movie that fucked me in my predictions. God damn it, it was so close though. Nah, not really. Like Thunderbolts and Sinners numbers were close. This one was like 5.2 million this weekend. On a budget of $8 million, there's no worldwide total, so right now it's like, who cares? I was gonna see, like, as far as like the opening weekends, where does this go for Angel Studios, but I don't care enough. As far as like what they've already outgrossed though, they outgrossed Rule Breakers by 3 million and Brave the Dark by 1. It needs 2 million until it outgrosses Sight. So I feel like this is just one of those movies that, is just gonna dip and just, you won't even remember it ever came out, which is like kind of me with like some of these other lowest grossing ones. Like I remember Sound of Freedom. I remember The King of Kings. I don't remember a lot of the others. Number 7 is Friendship, staying in the same slot. and having a bit more turnout, obviously, you know, expanding in more places. It opened to 4.5 million this weekend, so that now adds to a domestic total of 6.6. So, like I said last weekend, I don't know what the budget of this thing is. I still don't, and I don't think, now seeing the film, I don't think it costs that much to make. But I guess you never know. I do highly encourage anyone to go check this out. This is one of my, if not my favorite film of the year so far. I saw this with, you know, a couple friends from work, and a theater filled with people who I feel like definitely knew Tim Robinson. Like, they know I think you should leave. And everyone was in hysterics. Hardest I've laughed in a bit. It's just such a crowd-pleasing movie of like cringe, awkward comedy. It's so batshit in a way you wouldn't expect. You know, when I say that, you think like, oh, it's A24, so is it gonna be... No, just like go check it out and see what I mean. It's an oddball little movie, and I really loved it, and I would love for more people to go check this out. Unfortunately, we have to move on to number 8, which is a Minecraft movie, making 2.2 million, adding to a domestic total of 420 million domestically. That is the pot number. 420, baby! As far as the Mario film domestically, it needs 154 million to outgross that. All-time domestic list, it is 3 million over Fallen Kingdom, but it needs 3 million until Dead Man's Chest, so it is at number 39 for that list. Worldwide, it is sitting at 939 million, so it needs another 420 mil till Mario for that one. For the year 2025, it needs 1.039 billion till Naja 2, and then for the all-time worldwide list, it has outgrossed Half-Blood Prince by 13 million, Shrek 2 by 6 million, Finding Nemo by 3 million, Order of the Phoenix and Rise of Gru by 2 million. It needs 1 million until it gets to Hobbit Battle of the Five Armies. Right now, it is number 69 on that list. That's the sex number. I don't think Minecraft is going to get to 1 billion anymore. Like, it's lost enough momentum. It's just kind of slowly bumping up. I think it's going to get close. I just do not know if it can hit 1 billion. And if it does, it'll be out of the top 10. I don't have to talk about it, and I don't give a shit. Number 9 is The Accountant 2, making 1.9, adding to a domestic total of 62 million. 24 million away from the original film now, by the way. And then worldwide, it is sitting at 97 million, so that places it 55 million away from the original. But, you know, a small victory. They are just about 3 million away from 100 million worldwide. It's not double their 80 million budget. It's still, you know, going to be about 20 million over it, you know. It's still not double that budget, though, but at the very least, getting to 100 million worldwide, that does say something, you know what I mean? It may not be as profitable as, you know, some of these other films or whatever, but, you know, it may not be as profitable as Lilo and Stitch or Minecraft, right? But at the very least, I feel like they're fine, maybe. I don't know. We may never get The Accountant 3. I don't know. Does anyone care? I don't know. They're fine movies. Whatever. Closing out the video, number 10, and I'm kind of surprised it's here, if I'm going to be honest with you. Hurry Up Tomorrow. Now, maybe this is a mistake. I was kind of, you know, rattling it in my head. Like, is this wrong? Like, is Until Dawn supposed to be here or something like that? But as of right now, you know, when recording this, it is still here in the top 10, making 740,000. It dropped off that much, the distance between this and number 9. Only bumping up now to 4.8 million domestically, and it is 9 million away from Trey Edward Schultz's It Comes at Night. No, not even going to get there, not even close, and nowhere close to doubling that 15 mil budget. The worldwide numbers are not larger enough to report on even, or to say that it could have a chance of getting there. Oh man, sorry, The Weeknd. After this and The Idol, I think you need to reconsider doing fucking film and TV entertainment, dude. I'm sorry. You might have to just never do that shit. I'm sorry, man. Now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. Number 1, I am gonna go with Lilo and Stitch once again. But then number 2, I do think Karate Kid Legends could sneak in there. And maybe I'm wrong, but I just feel like, you know, it is based off of some kind of like nostalgic IP, but also Cobra Kai has been doing a lot of heavy lifting as far as like reminding people about the Karate Kid. And, you know, Ralph Macchio is in this film, and some people might be like, well, maybe the other people might show up for a cameo or something, who knows. So I think it could get to number 2, and then number 3 I think will be Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I'm very curious to see how well that holds over. If it holds over well enough to beat out Karate Kid, that'd be so cool, but we'll see. Like I said, I forego any kind of like hope that it could, you know, break even at the box office. At the very least, I just want to see it continue to do well. Number 4, I think, could be Bring Her Back, just because it is a new horror film and people have been talking this up for a bit. And also, it's Talk to Me. They promoted that it's the Talk to Me guys, Raka Raka. So I think they have enough buzz to potentially get in there. And then number 5, I think, will be Final Destination: Bloodlines. But what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.